This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
This episode of Momming While Muslim is brought to you by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential on March 23rd for a free career webinar and find out about job opportunities with the company that might help you, your family, and your community. This episode is also sponsored by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Momming While Muslim podcast. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. How are you doing, my dear friend? I know you've had quite the week. So do you want to share a little bit? It wasn't a fun week, so what's going on?
So you know how your parents come over and they'll say things like, oh, my knees are hurting, my shoulder's hurting, or I have back pain, or I'm not sleeping well, or, whatever they start talking about. My dad came over for dinner last Thursday, and just for what it's worth, my parents are both vaccinated. My husband and I are vaccinated. So they came over. And my dad's like, oh yeah, like last night I woke up with chest pain and it was so bad. And I was trying to find this, there's this Pakistani naturopathic thing, and he was trying to find that. And he couldn't. So he was like taking acid medication and stuff to try to help it. I need 3 pillows, otherwise I can't breathe. I'm seeing him get short of breath walking from the couch to the dining table, which is not that far away, which is maybe 10, 20 feet. And I was like, Daddy, I'm pretty sure that's a heart attack. He was like, no. It's just, I have reflux and bloating when I eat and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't eat when you woke up from chest pain. Like, that's like a cardinal sign. So he's like, oh yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll see the cardiologist after I come back from Houston, because he was going to get on a plane on Friday and go out of town with my mom to visit other relatives who were vaccinated. And I was like, you're not going anywhere until we call cardiology. So I called a cardiologist friend who was amazing. He's on vacation, and he arranged for my dad to have an emergency admission, and in fact had significant blockage in the main artery of his heart. So they went in and they put a stent on Saturday, and alhamdulillah, he's doing a lot better. But it's just kind of the same thing, like, oh, I don't know if I need to do this, and why do I need to change my diet? Like, I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. I don't have high blood. He's like, no, Daddy, do you understand what clogs the arteries? It's like all that salt that you basically unload on everything. Like any recipe, if there's sugar, he doubles it. Any recipe that's salt, he doubles it. Like our whole life, he's been like that. And I'm like, I finally caught up to you, Daddy. 74 is pretty good.
But okay, so how is he doing right now? Let's do that. Let's talk about that.
No, he's good,
right
alhamdulillah. He's still having some pain because stents do get blocked. But he went into the cardiologist and they said, no, it looks good. We're just going to change some medication. And alhamdulillah, he's healthy. He's happy. But he's not flying anywhere for 4 weeks.
Okay. I was going to say, he better not be getting on a plane at Houston anytime soon.
No, exactly. He's not going anywhere. So, and really it was, he wanted to get away because he was like, I feel so trapped in the house. Like I just wanted to get out and have a change. And I was like, all right, just come to my house and hang out with the kids. He's like, no, I don't want to do that.
I want to leave the house, but not come to your house. And yeah, he's not that bored. He's not that bored. He doesn't want to do that. No. That's so funny.
But alhamdulillah, he's doing well. So please remember him in your dua and tell me that your week was better.
Oh my goodness. I wish it was. I feel like the burning I think I'm like all moms right now, right? We're burning the candles on both ends. I think that's the phrase. I can't even think straight, to be honest with you. So if I say crazy things today, it's because I'm working on 3 hours of sleep. I've been up since 3. I'm not sleeping well. I just have so much going on. All great, amazing, energizing things. So this is not anything to be too stressed out about. But, it does start catching up with you between the school and the work and the podcast and trying to be a mom and trying to be like, we just have so much on our plate right now. So it's just not that fun. But I'm super energized, super focused, trying to make sure that I'm taking care of myself from the health perspective. Even though I am drinking Diet Coke today, not going to lie, cut out the coffee, but I need a little bit of caffeine. So I am sipping that. I'm not promoting it, but I'm definitely doing it right now. So that's kind of the fun thing. But first of all, I wanted to go back to your dad's story. The fact that you were able to diagnose him while you guys were eating dinner. I am so proud to know you and kudos for that. So the fact that she's diagnosing her dad at dinner. I'm trying to feed my kids dinner, writing a 12-page research paper. I am too old to be writing research papers.
You're
I'm
not.
I'm feeling like my brain stops functioning at like 3 and I'm sitting here writing this paper like, am I writing the same line over and over again? So we moms can get it done. And so I'm super proud of both of us. Glad that Uncle is doing well. But I am really interested to hear about what your soapbox is going to be today. I kind of have a feeling about what it's going to be. So, Uzma, what is our soapbox for today?
So, I feel like what's trending right now is end Asian violence ever since the shooting at Atlanta by a white man who shot 8 people in a nail salon targeting Asian Americans. And interestingly enough, since then, we have had 2 copycats in less than a week. And this is just the 2 that I found. I know that there's more going on. But these 2 were significant because they're happening against old people. And you guys know how I feel about old people, all right? So on one of them, I think it was March 12th, an elderly Asian lady was knocked unconscious. Basically, a white guy came and spat on her face and then punched her. So she fell on the back of her head, and that impact on the ground is what made her lose consciousness. And this was somebody who had been sheltering and social distance because of the coronavirus, and she finally felt safe going outside again. And then she gets attacked by a white dude whose motives, according to the police department, are not clear. Less than a week later in San Francisco, I hope you guys saw this, but 76-year-old grandma who was attacked on Market Street, which is a very busy street. If anybody's been to San Francisco and seen that, a white guy comes up and attacks her. And oh, by the way, a couple of hours earlier, he had also beat up another elderly Asian person. And he was beating her to the ground. And look at grandma. She picked up a 2x4. And I don't know, I've never seen 2x4s lying randomly in San Francisco, but maybe I don't pay attention. She picked it up and whacked him so bad. He was on a stretcher. She's meanwhile got 2 swollen eyes from the beating she's received. She's not on a stretcher. And she's just screaming in Cantonese, like, he was bullying me. He hit me for no reason. So again, San Francisco PD is unsure of this guy's motives, who beat up 2 Asian elderly people. 169, 176. And then, less than a week, these are a week apart. And in the middle, a 59-year-old man in San Francisco is also attacked from behind while he's walking. Again, after sheltering for so long, he finally feels safe to go out, gets attacked from behind, knocked unconscious, and beaten until the bones are broken in his face. We'll have these links for the articles in our show notes. For all of the police departments and state attorney generals who are unsure about why these attacks are happening, is a terrorist only a certain color or a certain race? Like, what's wrong with you guys that you're not calling a hate crime a hate crime? I feel like as moms, our job is to revisit our state laws and to really specify, actually don't specify, make it broader what a hate crime is. You don't have to come to somebody and say, I'm hitting you because you're Black, or I'm attacking you because you're Asian. You put your hands on them. That in itself is a hate crime. You are seeing the memes about hate being a virus. It has been in our communities for a very long time. And it's about time that people paid for it. These guys are going to get off. Hate crimes need to be identified. They need to be called as such. And our news and our legislators and our attorney generals need to not be chicken you know what about it. My soapbox for today is luck you to all of these people, or it rhymes with luck you, because you need to call a chicken, or a duck, and then you shoot it down, because it's not going to stop until we set a precedent for proper punishment, proper prosecution, appropriate prosecution for hate crimes. That's our soapbox for today.
I always have to just take it all in. Take it in, and it is a shame right now, and I'm seeing a lot of not only, end Asian violence, but it's more like end white terrorism. I think that's
Yes.
kind of, um I'd rather have that be, written about, because the reality of the situation is it's getting rampant, it's becoming a little bit, out of control, and that's something that we need to be focusing on. So thank you for bringing attention to that.
Yeah.
Today, unfortunately, today's another day that I'm glad that I'm wearing my waterproof mascara, because we're continuing our Firewalker series. But we're turning today away from kids and the worst nightmare of a mom to the nightmare that women go through before they become moms, while they're moms, sometimes after they're moms. Often this continues once they have kids. Most don't even know how to get out of it. Like, that's the sad truth of it. If you recall, last month we cited that 10 million cases of adults reporting domestic violence in 2019. That's just in the US. That's reporting. That's people actually going out of their way to talk about it, to report it, to record it. So ask ourselves, how many people are not saying anything? How many people are not reporting this? That leaves 5 million kids exposed to household violence again and again. That's what we actually know. Let's take that in. We were talking about domestic violence and abuse today. So if this is a trigger for you, as with all of our other episodes this month, please turn this off. You can read about it on a different time when you're in a better stage. But Firewalker Mama Madiha Schader has experience with abuse. She's sadly not a unique case. But this is highly personal, horrifying, and incredibly informative information. She has agreed to provide us a little bit of a glimpse and insight into what it actually looks like. So we are super grateful to have you here today, Madiha, to provide us the education that we all need. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Mommyingwhilemuslim.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
We are super excited and super honored that you're sharing something so personal with us, but we always like to kick off by asking a little bit about your mom's story and your momming philosophy.
Well, I think I was 24 when I had my son, and I think I wanted a baby maybe in my teenage. 'Cause I literally loved kids so much. I would go and get all the neighborhood kids in my house. Anyway, his birth was what I was waiting for. When you're in a position in a marriage where I was, that was the hope. Like, I'll have something, and I'll have somebody, and I have a son, and then I have 10 years later on my second marriage, I have twins, which were miraculously somehow conceived. But anyway, and I think for me, the best thing I could have done, and my mommy theory is they're everything. They're pretty much everything. And even if I do anything on my own, there is a guilt involved because they are not there. And my son a lot of times will tell me, "Ma, what is this? Like, you can have fun without us." And I'm like, "No, I want everyone." But anyway, yeah. And the motivation comes from them to do things in life.
That's beautiful. I love that works for you. I personally
It
have no
does.
problem being away from my kids.
Exactly. Isn't that weird? Like, I don't know why. I have no idea. Even if I have a girl time, couple of hours at my friend's house, I'm continuously thinking, are they fed? Are they they should be fine.
They'll be fine, yeah.
They will be fine, but I have this thing. I just Yeah. So
It's very common though. Like you're in good
it's
company. I
very,
know a lot of moms feel that way.
yes. So, but I enjoy them. I have a will to live, I would say, because of
Oh.
them. That's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit about your family of origin, only the parts that you're comfortable discussing?
So I came from a military family. So my dad, my grandfather, and now my brother is in the military. We traveled all over Pakistan. If you ask me where I'm from, I can't tell you because everyone was an immigrant and everyone started a job somewhere when they moved from India. So I was one of those kids that didn't have any village. You know how embarrassing in Pakistan it is to not have a
Yeah,
village?
it is very embarrassing.
Because when they talk about their village, you're sitting over there going, ah.
Where do I belong?
So, but yeah, both parents, their families were immigrants and settled after they retired, wherever they wanted to be. So I have a family all over Pakistan, and I have three brothers, and I'm the only sister. And I got married when I was 21, right out of college. So, yeah,
Fresh. That's really young.
fresh.
That was goals 20 years ago for all of us, right? Get married really young. Zeba
Get married.
accomplished it. I
No,
did not.
Mm.
I knew that my dad wouldn't send me to college.
Oh,
Yeah, because I was always in a girls' college, all girls school, never co-ed, and college meant co-ed.
hmm
So he let me work after I finished college, but it had to be a school where all teachers were girls. So I knew I had this, like, and then I think I wanted to get married and find freedom. I thought I wanted to get married.
Yes.
I would say that idea was in my mind. Yeah.
That's interesting, and I would imagine that a lot of people in our demographic at that time did that. Like to
Yeah.
escape one house, they would go to another house, and quite
Literally.
frankly, it wasn't necessarily an escape, right? So, and you
No.
were talking a little bit, Madiha, and I see a lot of myself in you where you feel anxious and stuff when your kids are not with you, and a lot of the times a psychologist would probably have to say it's because of the things that had happened to you. So when they're not necessarily in front of you,
Yeah.
you're feeling that anxiety, that underlevel thing. And so, like, I definitely can relate to that. But we're talking a little bit, and we're alluding to your marriage and how that started. And you did just say, I left my dad's house, and I thought I was going and getting my freedom and gaining that independence with your husband, but it sounds like that didn't quite happen. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how you went from one kind of prison into a different type of prison?
Yeah. So I think I used to tell my mom, I think I was maybe 15, the only time I had a fight with my mom, actually. And so she would tell me what to wear that my dad would approve. So you're doing everything to his approval.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a bad guy. That's not what this is. He was a very strict guy. He had these rules that you had to follow. And secondly, he was an army officer. They all do. And I remember having this fight, and I said to my mom, am I marrying Hitler? Not to
Ooh.
offend anyone, literally, but that was my point of view, that is he going to let me breathe? Because it sounds like you're training me to be subservient to somebody else. I don't think there's more people like this, so no, I won't. And they say that whatever you're manifesting or thinking will happen. And I guess that was talked about so much that exactly that thing happened to me.
Mm.
And So I was 21, I got married, and literally a day after my walima, I knew I married the wrong person.
Mm.
So it was that fast. Like, I knew that, oh my God. And then a week later, I realized that I cannot love him because of, there is physical abuse, but then there is that mental abuse of those words that will stay with you forever. And yeah, it hit me really fast. I didn't have that lovey-dovey start, at least. So, but my mom used to say that it'll come. Or give him everything he wants, and he will eventually be yours, and he will change. And men are like this in the first few years of marriage. They are testing their women. And I used to say, why? Because I'm not testing anyone.
Right.
Why am I in a test run and he's not?
Yeah.
But I think the Pakistani auntie and mama theory is a lot of time that I had a talk with my grandmother. My grandmother said the same thing. He's testing you. He'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, I guess.
I haven't heard that. I've
So,
certainly heard love will come.
yeah,
Because I'm a product of an arranged marriage too, and in my case, love did come, but I'm not really understanding. Like, a walima is typically like the second day, traditionally, if not the same day of your marriage. So that's really soon. I'm really
that's really
curious about what it was that he said or what it was he did that made you realize, whoops.
so. You know how Pakistan is? You have so many servants for everything.
Right.
So I was a daughter of a brigadier. We
Hmm.
had like 7, 8 servants at home, and you're used to it. In
Right.
Pakistan, you're so used to it.
Hmm.
So day after my walima, because I was in a hotel on my wedding night. So day after my walima, I woke up, and you know how you have all these relatives who come in
The
to
next day with
meet the new
breakfast.
bride and spend some time with her. So they were all downstairs at breakfast time. So I got really, really quickly ready, and the bride has to look cute.
Hmm.
She has to wear makeup, her new jewelry, her new clothes. So I got ready as fast as I could. And I went downstairs. So I hear him call me from upstairs, and I'm like, maybe he needs something. So I went back upstairs, and I went into the room, and he said, "You didn't make your bed." And I had to take a double take. Go, what? He goes, "You didn't make a bed. And if you're not going to make a bed in the morning, you can go downstairs and go to your parents' house."
Mm.
And I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, that's my worth. Like, my worth is so low that if I don't make a bed, he will kick me out of the house. And this is like second day. This should be a honeymoon period. It doesn't matter if I made my bed or not. There is a lady working at home right now. She'll go to my room and make bed because you're used to it in Pakistan,
Right.
at least.
Hmm.
And that could be said very nicely also.
Right.
So the words were like, they hit me really hard, really fast. Maybe I was oversensitive. I have no idea. But that wasn't my worth that you just say, you know, go down, you're done. So he literally said that. And I think 50% of the respect was gone that day. Like, literally gone. Like, why would he say he wants me to leave the second day of my walima? It just sounds so rude.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah. So I made the bed. I went into the bathroom, cried a little bit because I had this like flashbacks of things happening. And then it was fine for a few days. And I think a week later is the first time he was jealous of somebody. So that jealousy part started. And after the jealousy part, I could not have loved him ever. It's
Interesting.
very sad, but I could not have loved him ever because for me, in a marriage, trust is the most important thing. I just want you to trust me. That's about it. So, and the jealousy part was the hardest in that marriage to obtain or maintain, I should say. Like, I didn't even know who to talk and who not to talk to. So it's the hardest one out of everything.
So it sounds to me, it's harder for me to actually relate for this particular situation because I did not have an arranged marriage and I didn't have all those traditional things that I hear all these other people having. So I was blessed to marry the love of my life and still be with him, even though he drives me nuts because COVID, because of COVID, and we're with each other all day long, every day. But maybe that's a blessing. It's it's an insight to what is to come, as he likes to say. But so it sounds like to me, you're used to the servants. He's expecting you to kind of take place of a potential servant because like now he's saying, okay, you're my wife. Now you have to do this. This is your due diligence. And then it sounded like within a week, he was starting to get or show attributes of jealousy and making you feel untrusted.
Mm-hmm.
So is that fair to say? Okay, great. So at that point, you're starting to feel untrusted. You're not feeling loved. You have, the cultural baggage of your mom and your grandma. It sounds like, they're passing down what happened to them down to you. They're saying, oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. And then all of a sudden it's not fine. And you're in this situation. And it sounds to me like you said you had your son to kind of get you through in the hopes of making some parts of it better.
All parts of it better.
All parts of it better. I mean, you're like, I mean, seriously, like I sneak in and look at my kids at night, which is why I found my 17-year-old still talking on the phone at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, you stupid, go to bed. And I'm like, why are you awake? But anyway, because I go and check on them when I wake up in the middle of the night. So I totally get that. Did you feel, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but did you have your son to help you get through some of those darker times with your first husband?
No, we waited actually. I had my son 3 years later. I wanted a baby immediately. Like literally, I thought that if I had a child, that would make me busy and, I'll find love and all that. But he definitely was the focus of escape, always.
Mhm.
And I was obsessed when he was born. I was 100% obsessed. I would say obsessed is a very small word, actually. My mom used to slap me because she would sleep with me and the crib was right next to us, and she would just like hit me from the back going, go to sleep, you're staring at him.
That's so cute.
And his hand would come out of the crib and I would hold it. Because his energy, they say that kids are very healing to your body because their souls are not tainted.
Yes.
So when you put a kid on your chest, that's why you feel very relaxed because you're connecting to a soul that has not been tainted. So that's why they're called angels. And with him, it was like that. It just, the dynamic of my whole life, everything changed when he was born. And I had a purpose after that, which was very important to me, I guess, because, I was very alone. I was the only relative in the whole United States. I had one cousin, he's male, he's studying. Once in a while we would talk, but so for me at that time, with no cell phones and no internet connection and all that, he became everything, literally. And it's I've talked to so many moms who would say in domestic violence or domestic abuse, kids are the reason we keep going.
Well, in your case, before your son was born, you had these 3 years. Can you describe some of what that abuse or oppression look like, or what, some examples that you're comfortable sharing with us?
You know, for normal people, a lot of things came very easy. With me, I was waiting to get married to maybe get those normal things like drive a car or go out on my own. And when I married him, I remember a month later, we're sitting in the car, and I said, "Why don't you teach me how to?" As I was in Pakistan, when I was getting sponsored, he left his job and stayed with me because, like, he wanted to keep an eye on me. That's what I'm gonna say. Anyway, so I asked him. I said, "Can you teach me how to drive?" He said, "Why?" And I said, "Because when I go to America and you go to work, I'll be driving." And he said, "You won't." And I looked at him and I went in a state of shock. I said, "Why won't I be driving?" He goes, "You don't need to drive anywhere. Wherever you need to go, I'll take you." I said, "No, but you will be at work in the morning. And if I need to go do grocery," he said, "I'll get you grocery." And by the end of that conversation, I knew that I will not be allowed to go anywhere without his permission. And that just, I'd never heard of that through my friends, at least, or aunties, or anyone, that much control needed to happen. I had, he was so, secondly, he was so jealous of every man around me. In Pakistan, from the Mali gardener to the guy who brings your laundry, the dhobi, to the vegetable cart guy who comes in to sell, like everyone. I wanted
male
everyone as
presence.
well, how he thought it was.
Right.
I know it's a disease. Men who have these issues for a reason. And later in my marriage, I found out there was a reason for him to be like that. But I think those first 3 years were very hard in that capacity that I couldn't come up to have a fresh breath of air. I wasn't allowed to go to my mom's for a very long time. And one of the things that just changed the dynamic also I think it was the fourth month of my marriage with him, was that my brother went to the Army Academy. He came back home one day and I had not seen him 3 months. And me and him are 9.5 months apart, mind
Oh my
you.
gosh.
Mind you, we are 9.5 months apart.
Yeah.
So we're like twins. So I saw him at my mom's house and my ex is dropping me. And I run to him, "It's your brother, for God's sake." And I'm so connected to him. And I hug him very tight. That night, when he picked me up, he asked me if it is my real brother, because I hugged him very sexually. Sorry, my words. And I started crying so much that he had to stop the car for me to throw up.
Oh gosh.
Because I cried so much, I was so nauseated by that fact. That, did you just ruin my relationship with my brother because you said something so gross? And I remember for the next 24 hours, I couldn't sleep. I laid in my bathroom and I just cried. I'm like, who the hell did I just marry? What the hell is happening to me? And I remember going out of the house, not even looking out the window, because I thought if I look out the window, he'll say I'm looking at somebody. I went to my honeymoon like that. And I remember in Thailand, some waiter complimented, "Oh, are you on your honeymoon? Your wife is so beautiful." And people compliment. It's okay. And he asked me if he was my long lost boyfriend. And I was like, dude,
in Thailand? You're like,
Dude,
yes,
I
because
never
on the
came to
weekends
Thailand.
I take a flight and I go meet with him and then I come back. I mean, okay, yes, because what that's
I remember that. I said, dude, are you okay?
My dad didn't let me
And
out of the house. How would I get a boyfriend?
exactly.
get a boyfriend, and then in Thailand, and I time it so good that you choose the restaurant and he's there. Oh my
Well,
God.
you know, you sent him notes. You sent him notes and said, Thailand boyfriend, meet me at this time. I'm going to be on my honeymoon. Make sure you say something. Yes, because that
You be
sounds
there.
very, very, very realistic. I am sorry.
Oh my
But it
God.
sounds like to me, Madhya, I'm sorry that you're going through that. I mean, because I'm feeling your angst as you're reliving it. So I feel badly that we are bringing this up to the surface. But whatever you're saying is obviously going to help other people, because I think when people think domestic violence, they think, you're wearing the bruises physically on the outside, you're hiding it, you're putting the makeup on, you're this, and that's terrible and shameful as well. But there is another type of domestic
Yeah.
violence where it's under the surface, where you can't quite explain it. You're kind of like, wait a second, this doesn't feel right. Like you're saying with your brother, like this is not a normal situation, but it's very hard because you don't have a physical bruise, a physical thing that you can show somebody about what's going on. So, and it sounds like this your breaking point when he said this about your brother, or what was the one incident where you then said, okay, I'm done and I don't care what society thinks, I'm done with this situation?
I would say that was one of the moments with my brother. There were so many moments in that marriage that just didn't make sense at all. And I needed to come up for fresh air, kind of a thing, in that marriage for years. My marriage being broken after 10 years, when everyone found out that we were getting divorced, they were shocked, 100% shocked, because I faked it so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it look like a really good marriage.
Mm.
And that's what you do if you want to keep the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You want to lie through your teeth
Mm-hmm.
and say everything is okay and act like everything is okay. Yes, you're supposed to be like, you're bleeding inside. You want to make sure that nobody else knows. I didn't want my mom to know till she came for my son's birth and realized what my marriage was. Till that point, actually, she didn't.
Oh, wow.
So she came for my son's birth and
Mhm.
realized what kind of a relationship I was on, because she's such an independent woman otherwise.
Mhm.
Like my mom drives, she has taught so many girls how to drive. And my mom swims, and she has taught so many women how to swim. She's joined so many clubs, horticultural societies, won awards. And, you know, she had her independence. She was a housewife, but she had her independence. And for her to come and see that I can't even go out to a grocery store and buy a tomato, which is like a light away, I can't even walk to that, was shocking to her. And I would sugarcoat it like, oh, I'm pregnant, I don't want to go. Then I said, oh, baby, and blah, blah, blah. And she's noticing all that and she's understanding. And then she was like, one day she said, it's okay, you're keeping your marriage. Kind of like words like that. I don't remember what exactly she said, but she understood, and she thought it was normal also. Like, I'll change. The child is here, he'll change, kind of a thing. And I don't think it ever changes. My tipping point came actually after uh, I got diagnosed with lupus. So I was in the hospital for a week, and my lupus got ignored. Like the signs of lupus got ignored for a while. And finally, I was in the hospital. They thought I had leukemia because my counts were so bad. And finally, they found out that it is lupus. Sixth day, I think so. So the seventh day, they discharged me. And first of all, I was in the hospital alone. Nobody came. He came for 15 minutes to visit me every day in the evening, and that was it. My son was hopping from one house to another because he didn't want to keep his son at home. He just didn't want to deal with a 3-year-old at all. So he was at my friends' houses. And I remember coming back home with him from the hospital. And he kept saying, "This has ruined my life." So I was pregnant. I had to lose that baby because they're going to start chemotherapy on me. I felt like given a death sentence because my count was so bad. I had to start chemo in 4 days. And my whole body was swollen because my kidneys were not working. I couldn't walk right. I had to come back home and plan how to do, because they wanted me to do an abortion because the baby was growing abnormally in me because my counts were bad. And that drive back home was the hardest thing I did because continuously he said, "This has ruined my life. You are going to ruin my, how did he put it? He said that this will ruin the quality of his life forever." And then he said that my parents lied to him, that I had a disease. They gave him a diseased girl. Of course they did. Like, oh my God, it was a part of a big plan. Anyway, and I remember we had to go to Walgreens to pick up 14 different medications. Like 14 different medications. So he went in Walgreens. I'm in the parking lot. And I remember a Desi auntie in my car right next to me. And I bawlingly cried. Because I knew that I can't cry in front of him. So I have to get it out of my system. And I remember at that day, I was like, I got to leave him. I didn't leave him actually after that. But that was a very tipping point that this is the day I needed him. Because what I was going through, I didn't even tell him I was going to get chemo because I just didn't want to tell him I was getting chemo. Because he was already so upset. And I just sat there and I cried and I cried and I cried. And when he came in the car and I, was in that position and he saw me crying and he goes, "Why are you crying? I should be the one who should be crying." And I looked at him and go, "You have no sympathy right now? You just hold my hand?" He said, "Is holding hand going to make it better?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need somebody." And I remember calling, of course, go home and calling my best friend and just get it out of my system. And I remember saying to myself that he has, the Pakistani word nazar se gir jana. I don't know how to say it in English.
You had him on a pedestal. He fell.
He fell.
Yeah.
I had this respect. He pays bills and he's very good at, he vacations a lot. I've seen the world with him. He loves to go out and eat. He's a very, we would go to movies and all that. It was very social. So there was, how we grab onto bad things.
Right.
No, sorry,
He's
good
a good
things.
provider.
Sorry.
What are you complaining about?
So I was concentrating on that. And then, of course, when I go home, I have to see my son because my friend was going to bring my son back. So I had to get everything out of my system before he came home. And that was one of the tipping points. But then after that, for next 3.5 years, I pretty much every day heard that dialogue. Pretty much every day. He had the normal lifestyle. He did everything he wanted to do. We traveled the same, the house, cleaning, cooking, laundry, ironing, everything happened on time the way he wanted it to be. The only thing was I was sick and I was doing it. So it still took me 3 more years of listening to that shit. Sorry, did I just say that?
It's okay. I would
Once
call
in a
it
while on a podcast. But um, I would say that was the darkest period. And I would say that um, I think my son was absorbing me in a way in that time. And he was watching, he was listening. After 3.5 years, he was 3.5 when I got sick, and seeing me gain weight, lose hair, surgeries, hospitalizations, so many near death experiences, so many times a 911 call went through, sometimes because of him, sometimes because of health. Like the firefighters actually recognized me. That was bad. That was really bad. They would enter, oh, hey, Madiha. And I was like, oh, dude, no.
But they were coming over
Uh,
because you were sick, not because anybody hurt you.
no, that too.
Okay.
There were some 911 calls because of that also. And I just couldn't take it. Uh, and I remember I was hurt for a year and a half before my hip replacement. And he kept telling me I'm faking it. So I could not do the household work. I had a 5,000 square foot house, and I used to clean it on my own with the hip that was being broken. So I kept telling him I can't mop. And he said, yes, you can. You're
You
making
will.
excuses. And I said, no, something is wrong with me. And he goes, no, nothing is wrong with you. You just don't want to do it. And I said, why can't I have a maid? And he said, then why did I marry you? And women don't understand that these words are very abusive.
Right.
Your worth goes down every time you let these words sink in. And I did, actually. I genuinely thought I had no worth. Other than if I clean and cook and he's happy, I have no worth. And it took years after my divorce to realize that. My tipping point, I don't know if I'm talking too much, but my tipping point was that a year and a half, I dragged my leg and I traveled 30 states with him on his sabbatical in that pain, crying my lungs out. I'm hurting. Let's go home. And he said, no, we're fine. Just take a Tylenol. And I came back and we were going to California, and we reached Quartzsite.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out of my car to go to the bathroom. I looked at my hip and I couldn't send the message, like, move. The pain was that bad. I said, I can't get out. So he dragged me out. He said, go to the bathroom. I was hurting so much. I came out of the bathroom. I was crying. I was shaking. And I said, can we go home? I think there's something really wrong with me. But he continued his trip. And we went on that trip. So, and he wanted me to go to SeaWorld and all that. And I'm like, dude, I can't walk. Please don't take me. And we came back. We traveled back that 7 also. Came back home, did grocery. Next day, I had a doctor's appointment, and the doctor said, your hip is gone. And I said, no, I have sciatica. He goes, your hip is gone. Your leg is not moving. So I went to an MRI right from there. And my MRI result came immediately, and they said, your femur has collapsed. And literally the day the minute I heard that, I realized I'm going to leave him. It is it. I feel like I'm breaking my body and he's not happy.
Yeah.
That means there will be no point in my life that I can make this guy happy. So I think that was it. I wanted to leave him at that point. So that was my decision day that there's nothing I can do to make this guy happy. I would rather have this pain alone and be my own than to be with him and be in another pain.
So like just to kind of put it into context, leading up to that point, you're saying he was social, and it sounds like you did have the opportunity to make a couple of friends. How were you able to communicate with them safely? And did you ever disclose what you were experiencing with them?
I don't know. Yeah, we're very social with the Pakistani community, and I used to talk to my friends every single day. They would ask me to go out for lunches. I would make excuse that my husband comes back at home at lunch, and I love doing lunch with him. That's all my excuse was. They said, "Why don't you start driving?" And I said, "Oh, I had an accident." Every lie possible I could do. And I'm scared to drive after that. So that was my story, and I was sticking to it. And none of them ever questioned why I never did anything alone. I attended one baby shower where my friend picked me up, and I came back home, and my ex said, "If the next time you do this," it was a baby shower for God's sake, you can leave. So after that, I never attended anything on my own. Um, and I would actually do so many baby showers at my home so I could attend it. Yeah.
Oh.
I've done a lot of baby showers at my home
Yeah.
of
So
so many
that's how
Pakistani
you
women over
maintain
here.
your social circle. Okay. But
Yeah.
nobody ever
So,
picked up
but
that something was wrong.
one friend,
Okay. Tell us about that.
only one friend, not going to name her. And I remember we were only friends for a week.
Hmm.
And she said, do you want me to come pick you up? We'll go have lunch. And I said, no, I can't. My husband comes here home for lunch. She said, okay, I'll come after lunchtime. We'll go have some ice cream. And I said, no, I'm feeling a little down. So she called me the next day again, asking me. And then she said, do you not want to go, or does he not let you go? And it hit me like a brick, like, oh my God, there's somebody who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I was married to him 3 years at that point. And so she was the only person that knew. And I would I used to call her my garbage disposal. Give her everything and she's going to dispose it off. It's not going to stay there. And and she cried a lot. Like, I had some episodes really bad where he kicked me out of the house, and there were some nasty things. He kicked my mom out of the house. He locked my mom in a room for a month, not letting her come out. Like, I would have to take food to her. She wasn't allowed to come out
Hell
when he was
no.
at home. So she was looking at all that, and she thought that I should leave. And I didn't leave at that point also. Like, it's very insulting. And my mom was okay with that. She goes, keep your marriage. Keep your marriage. You're sick. Keep your marriage. He's paying your bill. Your insurance is very high. You're going through chemotherapy. Keep your marriage. And I used to cry and cry and cry. And she used to say, there's no way out. Nobody's going to marry you. You're a sick girl. That's what my mom said. I understand where she came from. It's fine. But, and I couldn't go back home. I didn't have enough education to be on my own. And at that point, of course, I had a son also. And yeah, she was the only one. And she used to say the Shah Rukh Khan movie dialogue to me, Bhag Simran Bhag.
Run, Simran, run. Yeah.
Run, Simran, run.
Yeah.
I never did. And I think it had to come from, I had to be pushed.
Yeah.
And I had to be pushed by what he was doing. Um, and then I had the motivation to, of course, raise my son with his father, I guess, which was part of it. And I think my friend, she's still, mashallah, my very close friend, was one of the reasons the next, when she became friend, I was still with him 7 years. So those 7 years, I had one person. I didn't tell my mom a lot of stuff other than what she was witnessing, of course. But she was the only person I could pour my heart out to. She still is. She's very bossy pants, but she listens real good. And anytime something happens to me, there's one person who will immediately start crying. That's her. It affects her what affects me. And yeah, so the first person I called when I wanted to leave him was her. I didn't tell my parents actually till he left the house, till I filed for divorce, because I didn't feel like they would support. I knew my mom will ask me to bring him back. So when he left home is when I called. He didn't actually leave home. I had to get an order of protection. There was an incident. And I didn't tell my mom I was alone. I was on a walker because I was recovering from a surgery. And I said, I will wait because she's going to make me go back. And I don't want to go back. I was so done. And I didn't want anyone to manipulate me. So I shut down and I only talked to that friend. Actually, two friends, a friend from childhood also that used to live in New York. These two people were the only people I was talking to till the divorce was filed. And I was done. It was a very hard decision to make because I was in a very vulnerable condition. I was still on a walker. I couldn't even do my groceries. So, but I knew I couldn't. I genuinely knew that there is nothing left here to do and for me to get that fresh breath of air. And I knew my son was on my side. And which was the most affected person actually, because I can take a lot, but he was still a child at that point. It was very important for him. The women don't realize the people around them what they're going through. We have this fake side of us that comes out in parties and social gatherings and whatever, and now in social media also. And my hell was my own, I guess I would say. But I was the life of a party because I faked it so good.
Well, that's the truth of it. That's what I feel like a lot of people do, right? You smile,
Yeah.
you fake it till you make it. You smile, and
Mhm.
you kind of like, oh, I have to do this so that people don't know what's going on. And the reality of the situation as moms of boys specifically, and we have like 7 boys between the three of us right now.
Mhm.
It is very important to make sure the role model that they have in front of them
Yes.
is the role model that because you're raising somebody else's husband, you're raising a brother, you're
Literally.
raising a friend, and guess what?
Mhm.
We cannot let that be passed on to the next generation. So it's very important for our boys to see positive role models, to see their mothers being strong, and the fact that you finally decided enough was enough, even if you had to get on a walker to walk out, that is like kudos to you, Madiha, and we are so grateful for you to be here with us today. And for women, we have the number right now, 1-800-799-SAFE for the National Domestic Abuse Hotline. For domestic abuse comes in so many different ways,
Yeah.
shapes, and sizes, ladies. So please know you need. We talk about it very openly. You need us to help you direct to your resources. We are available by DM. Obviously we're sharing this story so people can see it's not about the physical abuse, it's about a mental. This is like gaslighting, isn't this the word that they're using,
That's the word.
gaslighting, to the extreme. But you know what, you had a happy ending. It sounds like you left, you started a new life. You have two beautiful girls, that are your your light, and you're being a good role model to them. So I really want to say thank you so much, Madiha, for getting out of that situation and being the person that you are today.
Thank you so much. It takes a lot of courage, and one of the things I wanted to say in your podcast was that women should be super sensitive to the women who have been like us,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, Uzma, you might know this saying, when we are still bleeding
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and we bleed on other people, the trauma will never go away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So people make me very uncomfortable by saying that I should not be talking about my past.
Mm-mm.
but I feel like that's part of my life. So you want me to erase the 11 years? Because it's
Mhm.
part of me. And I think after I left, the second part of abuse started, which was community related, people related, where,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to now fake the other side, like it never happened.
Mhm.
I've heard women sit and talk about me that, she talks about her divorce. And it made me very uncomfortable. And I feel like me owning that my own truth should not make you uncomfortable. And if it's making you uncomfortable, go have a talk with your son
Mhm.
and make sure that you tell your son that this is not how it's done.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's why I talk a lot,
Yeah.
because I feel like maybe one person in this room will go home and raise a good boy
Mhm.
Inshallah.
and
Allahumma
see that a person like me who has gone through it will keep being affected by what happened. You can't just erase it. I can't be just like, oh, it never happened. It's just flowery now, because I'm still bleeding. I do believe I bled on my son a lot. I do believe for next so many years because trauma wasn't done. I had not healed overnight. And I feel really bad that he was my healer. It's like he was my comfort zone. I could say anything, do anything, be myself with him. And he's mashallah engaged now.
mashallah.
Mashallah, mashallah, mashallah. And he's very happy. And I've raised him to respect girls, respect women. And I think when he was a child, one of the emphasis was that if he had a tantrum, to subdue it immediately. Like, make sure to tell him not to have a tantrum. Like, for me, it became like a passion that a boy should not have any anger
Oh no.
at all. So I would have long talks with him about being angry. Or, you know, I think I was overtraining him in a way.
Mhm.
But now I feel like when I see him with his fiance also, he's very respectful of women, their boundaries, what they want to do, what their independence is. He's super, super respectful. On the other spectrum, the girls, I let them fight with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I let them prove to me why they need something. Like, okay, let's have a brawl. But for for the reason being that I want them to reason and not just be subdued.
Right.
Because I feel like I'm still very subdued actually. I go and I ask my husband, I feel like I'm gonna go and sit in my friend's backyard. Are you okay with that? And 90% of the time he says, do you need a permission slip, like a principal slip? Do you want me to sign it? Because he's making fun of the fact that I asked for permission.
But that's your
Mm.
PTSD, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So it's gonna bleed through. It's gonna stay there. I don't think we can ever heal. I have that attached to me. I cry on and off thinking of situations that come in front of my eyes. You can't block it. I don't think you should block it. For years I did actually. And women, supporting women is very important. So if you hear somebody like me, just listen. It's okay to listen to us also and support each other, because 90% of the fact is hidden actually. I am just giving you the 10% out, because the people I'm comfortable with are the ones who are going to listen
Yeah. And
and
then like your
understand
friend,
me.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, dude.
And you know what I love about that friend? I don't know who she is, by the way, but a lot of people call me sticky because I ask the
Yeah.
uncomfortable questions. And she asked
Yeah,
an uncomfortable question. Like, who
she
knows to
did.
ask, is he not letting you? You know, and I think it's important for anybody listening these are kind of the signs, like hyper isolation. There's introversion, and there's people who like to be on their own, and then there's people who are being forced, and they're being withdrawn from
Yes.
society by an outside, usually their partner, their intimate partner, and it's up to us to figure out what's going on for her. I know that in a lot of the work of motherhood, early motherhood, busy teen motherhood, we get involved in our own stuff, but don't forget to reach out, because there could be somebody drowning that just needs us to ask. And if we're uncomfortable with it, that's our problem. But we can't let her
Mm-hmm.
problem perpetuate because of ours. So I kind of want
Yeah.
to make
It
sure everybody
was
hears
it
that.
she was, I think, the only one. And then years later, when I was going through my surgery,
Mhm.
before surgery, they did, all my friends, super sweet friends, did a Yasalamo and a khatam for me, a prayer before my surgery, 2 days. So my friend picked me up, took me to the surgery. I didn't care at that point that my ex was worried that I left home. So I went to that prayer. And when my friend brought me back home, my body was shaking with pain because my femur had gone in and I'm still walking without any help. So I was in so much pain. So I laid down and my body was like literally shaking. And this other friend, oh my God, she's an angel, like literally an angel. She still has my very close friends. She came and she started caressing my head and she goes, "Does your husband know how much pain you're in?" So that felt like, oh my God, she knows. But I said, I think so, because I didn't want to tell her anything at that point. And she goes, okay, because you need somebody's support right now because it feels like you're in too much agony inside out. And I said, yeah. He takes care of me. And she goes, okay, I just wanted to know if he knows how much pain this is because my body was shaking. So some people would recognize, but then a lot of people just had no clue.
Sometimes we don't want to
And
know. I
yes,
think that's
and
true of a lot of
now
women. They don't want to know.
literally, Uzma, I can sit in a party now and tuk,
Yep. Yep.
pinpoint
Hmm.
the ones who are being abused. It's that easy. I can read their body language with their husbands if they're talking to them. And I'm
We know.
quiet, of course, but some have reached out, even in my community, and I talk to them, and they say they reached out because they know I talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can help one person while talking about it and the rest of them can roll their eyes, I don't care. I would feel so much honor that I had helped a woman
Absolutely.
because not a lot of people reached out and guessed what was going on with me.
Mhm.
I mean,
So on that note, if anybody
Yeah.
has a situation that they want to talk about or knows of a situation that they want to talk about, DM us. We'll get you into contact with Madiha or to the National Domestic Abuse Hotline or to resources. We'll find your local resources if you don't have the ability to do it or if you're not safe to do it. We promise we will work on the DL to do it, and we're happy to connect you to Madiha, who so graciously shared this very intimate story, very personal story, and inshallah, if there's one person that was helped, and certainly if the telling of the story helped heal you, we're just so grateful and honored to have been a part of it. Thank you so much, Madiha.
Thank you so much for having me. It took me a very long time to just talk normally. I do have my tissue. I was like,
oh,
it's going to happen. I cried before, so I think I
oh,
rolled it out because, it's not possible not to cry.
Mhm.
But thank you so much for giving me this platform to talk about it. I'm always open about it. Been quiet for a very long time. And I feel like if we talk about it, because women don't know the triggers or see that as domestic abuse, but there are very small things that make domestic abuse the way it is. And it's very important for women to raise good boys. I tell you what, it's very important.
I
Raise
mean,
somebody else's husband. Absolutely. Raise them right.
Yes.
All
I am
right. Thank
raising somebody else's husband. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you,
You,
thank you,
you
thank you so
literally
much,
are.
both of you.
Awesome. Well, thanks
Thank you
everybody for
so
joining
much.
us on another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim, and we'll catch you next week. Love you, Madiha.
Thank you,
Assalamualaikum.
Lafis.
This episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim is brought to you by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential on March 23rd for a free career webinar and find out about job opportunities with the company that might help you, your family, and your community. This episode is also sponsored by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.